the 100 people that bought a ticket for this, I think it's amazing. I think if every meal could start with a trip in a park where they show you some of the things you're going to eat. What's more crazy is something like that happens like this in a theater. We are in an actual theater and I have to give a talk in front of hundreds of people. That's pretty daunting. I have no idea when chefs became a part of pop culture, and I mean restaurant chefs. I'm not talking about, you know, famous TV chefs, because that's normal. They have a following all over. But today, you don't need to be on television in order to have a following. There are people that really are into what you're doing. And that's a very recent phenomenon. What we do at Noma is that we try to work with the food culture of our place. We try to develop it. We try to be on the forefront of it. And that's very exciting. It's very gratifying to be that and be part of that huge movement that's happening. Much more satisfying than accolades, but accolades are a step on the road to achieving something tangible, a new flavor. And so 10 years of operating Noma might be an achievement these days. Although as a food culture, as a dining scene in Copenhagen, we're like infants, you know? And when you think of it like that, what does 1 year of being number one matter in the big picture? I was in a bad situation in 2010. Well, I was in a perfect situation. Yeah. We were number one for the first time.
Too perfect.
And we were full all the time, but in a strange way, that success limits you. You know, you think suddenly, is that it? Are we supposed to stay right here and never move? And suddenly my decisions started to change. You know, I was doubtful about whether it was good enough, what I had intended and what I was planning for the restaurant. And it was, of course, wrong to think like that, very wrong. So I immediately said, okay, I'm gonna find a way to get out of this funk. And how I did that was writing the journal. That to me was my way of again being like unafraid and playing around in a restaurant situation like you have nothing to lose, you know. Well, I know I wanted to do a journal for myself. It wasn't supposed to be a published book at first. Only when my editor, who's a friend of mine, actually read a few of the entries, she said, you know, René, I think this could be a book. But I didn't think it was good enough. Who would want to read that? And so, and at the same time, you're in this environment. It's like you're in a kitchen full of chefs with tattoos and piercings all over their bodies, and half of them are ex-criminals, you know. What are you going to tell them? I'm leaving, I have to write a journal, you know. It didn't feel right. And I guess at first I was sort of embarrassed to say that, hey man, I don't know how to deal with this situation. So I gave it to some people to read, and they all really enjoyed it. And they thought there was something interesting for people that are in the trade and also for people that are not in the trade. Some, you know, ideas about creativity, ideas about restaurant, how it means to operate that, how it means to manage a team. Before I wrote the journal, I used to make every decision, like every decision. And I wanted it to be that. That was how I was trained in a kitchen, that the head chef makes all the decisions about everything. So I changed that to loosen things up a bit, to make it a bit more fun place. Won't touch it on your heart. In the journal we talk about something that we call the fermented kitchen, the dried kitchen, and something that we call trash cooking, where we have thousands of kilos of foodstuff in storage right now. It's amazing. Cool. Actually, it's amazing. Well, I think the trend from 2014 and way beyond 2014 will be vegetables and plants, and also fermentations. I think we've just scratched the surface. The worst thing about being number one is that you have a lot of bling. Guests that doesn't really care, they just want to be at the place that's the bling of the moment. So we don't have that now. That's amazing. It actually changed overnight. I mean, I gotta say that writing the journal that I did had totally prepared me for this moment, you know, of only being number 2.
Yeah.
I think we are at the spot where we need to be as a restaurant, with or without number 1.
And the shops need